Hey guys, my name is Karlyn Borysenko, and I analyze the far left. What that means is I've spent the last 4 years of my life infiltrating them, going undercover with them, recording their phone calls, recording their meetings, releasing their videos, reading their documents, being integrated into their subculture in every way that I possibly can. I do this all live on the internet, on YouTube, Rumble, on my Substack, on my X account, wherever you might find me. And the reason I bring this up at the very top of the video is that there is a ton of misinformation right now about what happened in Los Angeles this past weekend and what is coming this weekend with the No Kings protest. And I understand people are really passionate and you're really looking out for information. Everyone's trying to do everything quickly. But what I would tell you is I've literally been covering the groups that are involved in this for months or years in some cases. I've been tracking some of these groups literally for years. And so everyone needs to slow down, because the thing of it is when misinformation gets out there and it starts circulating, especially among these big accounts, Data Republican, especially among these big accounts, Local Distance, especially, I mean, it's just like, it is mind-boggling to me. And again, I understand everyone's doing things quickly, but the information is out there. And if we just slow down a second, we can have a more rational conversation about what that is. So in this video, I want to just give you a brief hit of information. I will be doing a more in-depth live stream today on my Substack, which is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. Totally free to sign up. You can support my work over there if you want, and I really appreciate if you do. I am 100% funded by people just like you. They care about having access to this information in real time. So what happened this past weekend is we saw the inevitable conclusion, or it's not even concluded. I should not have said conclusion. It's not concluded. It's just getting started. I should say the inevitable outcome of months and months and months and months of organizing that Antifa has been doing since before Trump got back into office. I really want to emphasize this. The violence in Los Angeles, they have been trying to provoke this for months and months and months. And we've all seen videos of these smaller skirmishes. We've all seen videos of the stuff going on at Tesla facilities. What I would tell you is that in November of 2024, and I covered this on my Substack at the time, and I was screaming about this, and no one wanted to listen. In November of 2024, Antifa released a very detailed plan for how they were going to resist Trump. They released it through the publishing arm of Antifa, which is an organization called CrimethInc. And listen, this isn't an official organization with a hierarchy, but basically when something gets published through CrimethInc, it disseminates out into all the different radical revolutionary groups all over the country. It's not that they report to each other, but there is a decentralized communication structure set up, and CrimethInc is at the epicenter of it, okay? So if you want to know what Antifa is doing, you go to CrimethInc. CrimethInc in November of 2024, a month before Trump, 2 months before Trump got inaugurated again, already had a detailed plan for how they were going to attack ICE facilities to fight the inevitable Trump deportations. The reason it's important to understand this is that you need to understand that what we saw in Los Angeles over the weekend with the violence, especially on Saturday, because Saturday's violence was provoked by Antifa. Anytime you see the graffiti that says kill ICE, kill cops, anything related to ICE or cops, that's Antifa. Anytime you see the shields or the helmets or people dressed in black trying to provoke the police, trying to get in their face, that's Antifa. The goal of Antifa is to cause violence. It's to provoke a violent incident, okay? That is who was primarily provoking the violence on Saturday that led into the protests on Sunday. But they have been trying to do this for a long time. And there have been protests and skirmishes and direct actions that have been going on all over the country for months that have kind of led to this point, and it just happened to be in Los Angeles. Trust me, it could have very easily happened in Portland. It still could. It could have very easily happened in New York. It still could. It could very easily have happened in Seattle. It still could. It could very easily happen in Boston. It still could. It could very easily happen in Austin, Texas, ironically. It still could. It could very easily happen in Asheville, North Carolina. It still could. There are all these different things that have been happening all over the country that led to this point, and it happened to be Los Angeles where the spark finally took. That's what the radical revolutionary left does. They are trying to stage what they call a pre-revolutionary crisis, where they are trying to get the police provoked into a violent action, and this is important for people to understand. They're trying to get the police provoked into a violent action so the police come at them violently and aggressively, or the military, or what have you. And then they have the Antifa press crew there, and they video the whole thing, and then that disseminates out to all these different leftist organizations all over the country, and then the problems get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It is critically important that you understand that they are trying to provoke violence. Now, there's all sorts of complications with this and understanding who's involved in this. A lot of people know, because this has been spread around the internet, there's a group called the Party for Socialism and Liberation that's involved in this. That's true. The Party for Socialism and Liberation has been around for a long time. They ran presidential and vice presidential candidates in 2024. They have been campaigning all over the country. They are extremely well funded. People have shared information related to their funding from the CCP. I wouldn't say CCP directly, but what I have, and I've independently confirmed this, I've seen the documents. There is a very wealthy person in China who may be connected to the CCP who is absolutely funding the Party for Socialism and Liberation. They're also funding other organizations that are connected to them, the People's Forum, the Answer Coalition, and an organization called Breakthrough News. Breakthrough News, which has over 1 million subscribers on on YouTube, is the propaganda arm for the Party of Socialism and Liberation. And again, I have independently confirmed the financial ties. I do not talk about financial ties unless I've actually seen the primary source documents myself. I have seen them. It is real. And so can I say 1000% is this direct from the CCP? Well, no, it's not quite like that, but it's through an intermediary. And I do feel confident of that. Now, what I would also say is, there are a lot of leftist revolutionaries involved in the Party of Socialism and Liberation that do not understand that funding source. And this is really important because it's not as though they're not frauds. They believe everything they say. This is important for people to understand. They're getting money from somewhere, and it's important to have that context. But these people are radical revolutionary socialists, and a lot of the people involved in the organization don't know where that money is coming from. They just think they're getting involved in some leftist activist organizing group, and because they are so well funded, they are very active. The PSL organizes protests all the time. They organize weekly protests with the People's Forum in New York City. Claudia de la Cruz, who is the presidential candidate for the Party for Socialism and Liberation, she also is a co-founder of the People's Forum. So they work together. All these groups coordinate. Now, what's interesting about this is the PSL does not necessarily get along with Antifa. So don't assume that the PSL and Antifa are coordinating with each other, because those two groups don't necessarily get along, and they don't usually play nicely with each other. That's not to say they're going to fight with each other openly. They're not. But, at least not right now. I mean, they may do that another day. But Antifa released a document on their website yesterday, Sunday, basically saying that the crowd, which when the Antifa says the crowd, they mean them, Antifa was fighting with what they called paid protesters. So not all the leftist groups are playing nicely, and people shouldn't think that they are. Oh, by the way, people throwing the rocks, Antifa, or Mexican nationalist groups, we'll talk about them in a second. So people throwing the rocks, people throwing the fireworks, that's Antifa. That's usually not the PSL groups. The PSL groups tend to be less violent. That's not to say they won't get violent, they will, and some of them did yesterday in Los Angeles, but the PSL groups tend to actually be engaging in more peaceful protest. They will engage in violence if they need to. They certainly have before. They will certainly do it again. But the people that are actively out there trying to provoke for the sake of provoking, that's Antifa. And those are just, again, they're separate things. There's also a complication in Los Angeles in that there are a ton of just really small mutual aid and legal networks targeted specifically at tenant rights groups. We have union groups. We have immigration groups. There are a ton of different far left socialist immigration groups that are all run by Mexicans, of course. And a lot of these groups are not well funded, but they are well organized. And so A lot of those groups, I think, came out yesterday. I have evidence of some of them. I'm trying to figure out all of them, but there's also, what I want people to understand is, this is not just the PSL. This is not just Antifa. This is not just all these small little immigrant groups. It's kind of everything coming together in a perfect storm. I also saw the Revolutionary Communists of America out yesterday at these protests. The Revolutionary Communists of America, which is a political party, it's a far-left political party. They are revolutionaries. They're not bad as some. They were not involved in the organizing of this. They just show up at these events and they hand out their stuff to recruit people. I also saw the RevComs out yesterday. Now, the RevComs are a weird group with this guy, Bob Avarkian, something like that. And so they're not really major players on the left, so I don't really talk about them. They're just kind of like a weird culty group that shows up at all this stuff. So again, there's this ton of misinformation out there. I'm trying to give you guys a basic mise en scène of why this might be confusing. Now, information has started to circulate about the No Kings protest. The No Kings protest is pushed primarily by the teachers' unions, the NEA, the National Education Association, and the AFT. This is more of a progressive protest. And there's all sorts of misinformation online saying these people are the ones that are doing all this stuff in Los Angeles, because the No Kings protest has had a nationwide series of events scheduled for June 14th, Saturday, for a month. They actually announced the No Kings protest on May Day, May 1st, which is when they held their last major protest, which I covered in my content. I covered it on the channel. And as soon as May Day was done, and I covered this at the time, I said, I actually have a video of the president, I think of the NEA, Becky Pringle, saying, this isn't going to be just a protest on May Day. We're going to be protesting all summer. I covered this at the time. They announced it a while ago. The No Kings protest are not the same people that were yesterday rioting in Los Angeles. The PSL, at least right now, are not involved with the No King stuff. Antifa is not involved with the No King stuff. Now, there are absolutely, so the No Kings people, they span from kind of like more progressive and liberal, but there are some more revolutionary people involved. For example, the Chicago Teachers Union. The Chicago Teachers Union is almost entirely run by revolutionary communists. So that's a very far left group that is involved in the No Kings protest because they just happen, they have alliances with the NEA and stuff like that. So here is the problem though. You can't control what groups show up to a protest. There are a ton of groups that are signed on as like co-sponsors or organizers of this No Kings thing, but there are going to be big protests in a couple main urban hubs. You can't control who goes up, who shows up to those protests. And so what's going to end up happening is the No Kings protests are going to be happening nationwide, all over the country, on Saturday, June 14th. Again, this has been scheduled for long before the riots were. It's not connected. It's just a coincidence. But what's going to happen is Antifa and the PSL and the Revolutionary Communists of America and all these other leftist groups are going to show up and piggyback off of the No Kings protests. So it's going to be really important that people understand there is a ton of nuance in this situation. Just because all these leftist groups are showing up does not mean they're all connected with each other. It does not mean they're all working together, but it does create a perfect storm for absolute chaos and absolute misinformation and a lot of anarchy and a lot of destruction and damage. We are going to see, guys, I'm telling you, Trump is not going to do what's required to fix this. I already know that. I know what the administration is planning. They're planning right now 500 Marines who I don't even think are going to be armed based on the information I have. And they're still trying to work with the LAPD, but LA is fighting them on it. It's like they're trying to call out the National Guard. Gavin Newsom is fighting him on that. There is no possible way that the Trump administration is going to bring the overwhelming force required to solve this problem. It's not going to happen. Trump is too afraid of optics. I am sorry if this disappoints some of you. Trump is and I've heard this directly from people in the administration. Trump is deathly afraid of optics. He is deathly afraid of some police officer or some military guy getting into a violent altercation with a protester and that being all over the news and that sparking off more things. But most importantly for Trump, it would make him look bad. Okay? That is what he's afraid of. He doesn't want that to happen. And so I don't think that in order to stop the impact of this now, after this weekend, we're already seeing calls from leftist groups all over the country, literally saying they're going to protest all week, not just on Saturday, all week long. I think we're in for a rough summer, folks. And I think it's going to be really important that we take a nuanced look at this and we really understand what's going on. And we don't just push information out there that we haven't fact-checked. So please, the ask I would beg of all of you, if you've made it this far in this video, please look at the primary source information only. Not something that your favorite influencer has posted. Go directly to the source. I know it's harder. I know you don't want to. But I promise you, you're going to be much more informed about what is going on with the far left if you just go directly to the source, because they put all their materials on the internet. You can listen to all of them. I will be streaming the No Kings organizing meetings all week long on my YouTube channel. They are going to be, there's one tonight, there's one tomorrow, there's actually two tomorrow, there's another one on Wednesday. There are probably going to be more events popping up throughout the week. We got to stay super flexible, and I'm just going to stream these openly on my YouTube channel. If you want to stop by, you can find that. I'm also on Rumble. I also stream on X. So if you want to see directly this No Kings organizing stuff, we'll be watching all of it, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be fun. I will be covering as much as I can. I will be doing live streams on my Substack. If you want to come over to my Twitter, that will probably be like the most instant source of the information, just because that's where the information gets out there like that. It's the easiest. I will be doing as much as I can. If you guys have questions, let me know. And yeah, I'll be talking more about this over on my Substack. So again, karlyn.substack.com, karlyn.substack.com. And if you want to support the work I'm doing, because I'm an independent journalist, I work independently of anyone. I do not have any political motive. My job is only to tell you the truth and to show you the receipts, and I will do all of that. You can have the information. You can decide for yourself what you think. But if you want to support the work I'm doing, head over to the Substack, Karlyn, karlyn.substack.com. Sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year. I really do appreciate it. All right, more soon. Bye.